We started this journey of poetry with Emily Dickinson's Talk About Death. And we looked at Because I Could Not Stop for Death, which is Emily Dickinson's one of her best known poems. It is a depiction of one speaker's journey into the afterlife with personified death leading the way. In her poem, Because I Could Not Stop for Death, Emily Dickinson describes a close encounter with death and immortality. She uses personification to portray death and immortality as characters. Her familiarity with them at the beginning of the poem causes the reader to feel at ease with the idea of death. However, as the poem progresses, a sudden shift in tone causes readers to see it for what it really is: cruel and evil. So we're scaffolding from Emily Dickinson's Because I Could Not Stop for Death, which was a personal interaction with death, to Edgar Allan Poe's loss of a loved one due to death. So this is where we're going to take and write a poem. To this poetry assignment is Poe Love Lost assignment. So you're going to write either using the Raven framework or Annabel Lee framework. The poem must have enough writing to tell your story in poetic format. You must use examples of figurative language in the poem. So the Raven format talks about the narrator who's very sad, who wants to try to find out information about his loved one over on the other side, the afterlife. So that's the first one. The other one is the Annabel Lee framework, where the narrator is speaking about a deep love for someone who is taken away by the angels because the angels were jealous of their love. So we're looking for either a poem written by in the Raven format or framework, or the Annabel Lee framework. And you must put in figurative language into your story. So step one is to pick either the Raven framework or the Annabel Lee framework. Step two is to use figurative language in your poem to bring the story alive. So, and next step would be for you to share your poem with your shoulder partner. Step four is have someone in your group peer edit your poem. Step five is you go back to your poem prior to final submission, look it over, make sure that you have proper grammar, that things that are supposed to be capitalized or capitalized, and that step you would also tell me whether you've used the Raven framework or the Annabel Lee framework. Step six is for you to share it out. That's one of the great things about poetry, is that we're able to share out our thoughts with that. So I just wanted to go over what the poetry revision checklist looks like. So step one says read it through the checks, responding to the questions, right? If the answer is no, fix it. So make sure that you go through the step before you give it to your to have it peer edited. So this is a pretty thorough checklist to make sure that you do great work. So for example, does your poem say what you wanted to say? Is the message clear? Does your poem make sense all the way through? Are all the lines in the best order? Have you kept the same point of view? For example, if you start out describing a flower through the eyes of an elderly man, you don't want to talk about it through a child's point of view, which won't be a problem since we're talking about love lost in Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven and Annabel Lee. Have you kept the same tense throughout the poem? So just make sure that you do that. So too much or too little? Are there parts of the poem that need to be expanded with greater detail or more explanation? Are there enough details to make the reader see what you want them to see in the poem? Remember, we're talking about Edgar Allan Poe, and we've emphasized that he put women in an angelic perspective. All the women that he knew died very young. So I just want you to make sure that you understand what you're looking through. So make sure that you go through the entire checklist prior to giving it to someone, and then give it to a peer there. Once you're done that, then you're going to take your poem, you're going to go back and fix anything that they gave you ideas or thoughts to fix, and then you'll submit that with your peer or with your poem. I hope that you will take the opportunity to share out your poem. If you have any questions, you can ask me in class or email me. You have my email address. I look forward to tomorrow and working with you on this project.